A Republican challenger will take on three-term Democratic U.S. Senator Amy Klobuchar. Political newcomer Joe Fraser is a Navy veteran, banker, father, and now, as Eric Shalou reports, he is a U.S. Senate candidate.
Service has always been something important to me.
After 26 years in the United States Navy and now as a banking executive, Minnetrista's Joe Fraser is entering the Republican race for U.S. Senate.
I see this as a referendum for change in the chamber.
The first-time candidate hopes to face three-time Democratic Senator Amy Klobuchar in November.
To start with balancing the budget, I think that's a huge differentiator between myself and Ms. Klobuchar.
Getting government spending under control is a priority for Fraser, along with protecting mining in the state.
We should be making the investments in Minnesota and the ability for us to harvest the natural resources that we have, to protect our supply chain, to create jobs.
Fraser also feels immigration needs to be addressed on the southern border.
This country was built on immigrants, and we want to bring those people in safely and securely and make sure that the people who are coming in are the ones that are going to contribute to the betterment of society, and they're not the criminals.
Klobuchar has a significant lead.
Hamline University political science professor David Schultz says a hurdle for any candidate,
she also has a lot of money,
is keeping up with Klobuchar's campaign money.
He's going to have to prove himself very quickly that he can raise money and challenge her. Otherwise, he may not get the support that he needs from national donors.
Larry Jacobs, a political expert who teaches at the University of Minnesota,
Mr. Fraser seems impressive.
Says Republicans have been looking for a candidate in this race.
War vet, banker from the suburbs, which is a critical battleground in Minnesota. But the barrier is big, and it's one of the reasons we have not seen prominent Republicans stepping in against Amy Klobuchar.
And again, that was Eric Shalou reporting. Joe Fraser officially announced his campaign for the U.S. Senate this week with several stops around the state. And he's now joining us on At Issue here in studio to talk about the looming campaign. Joe, thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
What made you decide to continue your public service? Because, of course, you were in the Navy for more than a couple of decades. Why continue your public service and run for political office?
Well, I think you just look around at the situation that you see in America today, and there's a calling that the years of service that I gave, there's still more to give. And I look at the problems that we have, the challenges that are in front of us, and I think bringing a fresh perspective to those problems is what I can do. So
now, you heard what some of our political analysts said about how daunting it is to run against Amy Klobuchar. She has won by anywhere from 20 to 35 points in her three previous U.S. Senate elections. Where do you see an opening to go after Amy Klobuchar and win a majority or plurality of voters to win the seat?
Well, I think when you look at the voting record, you look at, she's got plenty of history there to pull apart and look at and say that it's been extremely progressive. It's not necessarily aligned with middle of the road where most of America sits, most of Minnesota sits. You look at the fact that, yeah, she's an incumbent, but this nation's built on challenges. We don't do the easy things just because they're easy. We do the hard things because those are the things that are the most rewarding. And, so this is a challenge. I fully recognize that. But I also believe that bringing my experience from my years of experience in the Pentagon, as well as a global perspective, brings that challenge full circle.
Now, in our Survey USA poll, we asked a question about a generic Republican opponent because we didn't know you were running yet. These are the numbers. It was interesting to me that Amy Klobuchar's re-elect number was 49%. That's below 50%. First time we've seen that. And against an unnamed Republican, 33%. Does that give you some hope, even though she still has a 16-point lead?
It gives me a lot of hope. When you look at it, you say that tells you that there is an appetite for change. That tells you that there is a desire to maybe embrace a different perspective and have somebody come in and fight for Minnesota in a way that hasn't been done. I'm actually very optimistic about the numbers against a generic politician or a candidate.
Now, you talked in the story we did before the interview about immigration and keeping a lid on spending. We believe abortion will be a big issue again. Where do you stand on that red-hot issue?
So abortion is an intensely personal issue. And personally, for me, I am a pro-life candidate. But I recognize that this is a woman's health issue. It's a woman's health issue that she has to work through and make an incredibly difficult decision. I think we can find commonality, and where we find common ground, we can advocate for education, contraception, options for adoption, and really embrace a policy that is not built on shame, but encouragement and compassion.
Will you seek the endorsement of former President Donald Trump, and will you support him for president if he's the nominee?
Right now, I'm letting the presidential candidates do the presidential candidate things, and whoever comes out on top, I would hope, would endorse my campaign. I will wait and see how the electoral process rolls its way through. And when we get to later on this summer and we know who the presidential candidate is, that's the person that I'll endorse.
But you're not endorsing him at this point?
At this point, it's hard to say whether or not he would even make it through the nomination process. So we'll have to wait for the electorate to make its decision.
Okay. Joe Fraser, he is a new candidate on the Republican side for the U.S. Senate against Amy Klobuchar. Best of luck to you on the campaign trail. I'm sure we'll be seeing more of you in the coming months.
And thank you for having me, Tom.
All right.
Appreciate
Thank you, Joe.